but I do keep business cards.
Okay.
For me, visually, if I see the card, I can remember where I met the person and oftentimes the conversation that we had.
All right, welcome to another episode of Connections That Matter, where we tell the stories of Northern Colorado's best networkers and the connections that they make to help them have amazing businesses. And today, my special guest is Melissa Foster from Organize, a Happy Home Organizing. Melissa, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So we just moved.
Yeah.
And it's been a hot decade or so since I've moved. I think when we last moved, my wife was pregnant with our son, and we have accumulated quite a bit more stuff. And I didn't realize how unorganized, I guess, I was until you have to put everything in a box with a home. And but you do this for a living. So tell us a little bit about Happy Home Organizing.
Yeah, so I think moving is the time that you realize it the most because you actually have to deal with it when it's in the closets, in the drawers, behind closed doors. We can easily forget about it. But that's what happens. I think we are a stuff society. We've been taught how to buy and consume, but we haven't been taught the other side of it, which is how to handle all of that stuff once it's in our home. And it's really just creating a system of, I have a rule I tell my clients, if you bring one thing in, take one thing out. And it can be that simple, but if it's not a process that you're doing every day, it accumulates and you can get overwhelmed pretty quickly.
Some people are natural purgers and other people are natural cleaners.
Collectors, yes, absolutely.
And then sometimes they marry each other, right?
100%. I mean, I'm the natural purger and my husband is the natural. Everything has a sentimental memory to it, whether he's going to use it or not. And so they have to marry each other. Otherwise, you end up drowning in your stuff. So my
son's like that. I mean, he just has just trouble giving things away or I don't know, about a toy that he doesn't even play with, but he doesn't. So I was thinking of your connection to your things. Is it nature or nurture? Is it how people are brought up or is it something people are born with? What do you think?
Such a great question. When I started my business, I started it because I was burnout from teaching. And I wanted to do something where I could still help people teach in one way or another, but I had 31 students in my classroom. The 31 to 1 of me just didn't work out anymore. And I love to organize. So when I started it, it was based on burnout. But the more that I have worked with my clients and thought through my upbringing, the way that I look at stuff, I think it's probably a little bit of both. So I have people in my family that are collectors. They love stuff. And that's mostly on my dad's side of my family. My mom's side, I remember when we were younger, once a month, she would pull us together and we'd have to go lay all of our toys out and we'd have to go through them and decide what are the things we don't want anymore because we were bringing stuff in. So from a very young age, she instilled in me how to let go in a way that feels okay. And that's something that I try and do with my clients where we're not just throwing this away. It's not going to waste. Let's find somebody that can use the items you're no longer in need of. It's not always the case, but so I think I was taught this skill very young. I also think it could have easily gone the opposite way. When I was younger, my mom called me the bag lady because I would collect things.
Rude.
I would put them in bags and I would hoard them. I would not let them go. So maybe she saw that and wanted to nip it in the bud early and teach me how to let go of things. But I think some of my clients, when I talk to them, they say, my mom was this way or my dad was this way. And I recognize that I'm starting to fall into these patterns. So I want to stop that and learn how I can let go of these things and not be in a place where I'm 60 and drowning in my stuff and then don't know how to handle it.
Well, you said you love organizing. So where does that come from and what specifically do you love about it?
I think it comes from not being able to handle chaos. When things are chaotic, it's exactly what I preach to my clients. I am less productive. I can't focus on the things that I need to focus on. I myself can feel overwhelmed. And so I think just understanding that, number one. Number two, I love organizing just because it feels so satisfying.
Yeah.
I know some people are like, you're such a dork for like loving organization, and I'm completely okay with that.
Well, you have some really awesome like before and afters of junk drawers that turn into like super organized systems. Is organization something you like a habit you could develop or a muscle that you could work where it becomes easier? I don't feel like I'm like a naturally tidy or organized person. I'm just kind of a seat of my pants, but I'm working on it, right? Like I know I would be like more productive or more efficient if I had more systems to that. So it's, it's something I'm intrigued with of like, as a way that I'm going to take my personal business or to the next level to have better systems. So what tips would you give to somebody who's, has maybe a New Year's resolution or like they moved to a new place and they're like, I want to get this I want to have better habits over here. What tips would you give somebody who's trying to be more organized?
Yeah. So with my clients, it's so specific to each one because part of my process is to learn about them and how their brain works. I think I have this whole teaching background of having to get one concept into all these different brains, and they all think differently, they all learn differently. So part of my process is asking a lot of questions to see what works for you. I try and keep my systems as simple as possible so that they can be maintained because lots of my clients are neurodiverse. They have ADHD, and they are not going to do 5 steps to keep a system happening. It needs to be quick, it needs to be simple, and it needs to almost become a habit, so it requires minimal thought. So that's part of my process is I come into your space, I see how you work in it, what is working, what is not working, and how we can improve in the areas that it's not working. A lot of the times, it's just, I focus a lot on that clutter because we accumulate things that we no longer need. They were for a certain time in our life. We're no longer doing those things. We clear that so we can focus on the things that we just need, and then we set up a system that works.
Well, I'm curious how you build rapport, because it's one thing, like I got all this stuff, but then to let somebody else see my chaos or see my lack of organization and be vulnerable enough to say, hey, I want some help in this area. I don't know if a lot of people would do that. Maybe they would. I'm sure you see it, but there's probably something in you that allows that level of connection. Do you have any tips of how you can build that rapport and trust to get people to give you more access? I
mean, I appreciate that you see that in me. I do think it requires trust for sure, vulnerability for sure. There's so much shame wrapped up in when my clients reach out to me, they always say to me, oh, I'd be so embarrassed for you to see my stuff. And I just say, I promise I've seen it all. I've seen worse, and I'm also human. If you walk into my house, you're not going to think, oh, she's an organizer. Everything is labeled, everything where it's supposed to be. I just have systems that work for me. So I think the biggest thing is you just have to be ready. And once you are ready, you have to be willing to ask for help. And those are the two probably biggest mountains you have to get over. And then once, I think a lot of my clients, before I even go into their homes, just the conversations, the questions that I'm having with them over my phone consultation, a lot of times they end with, I feel so much better already, and we haven't even gotten started. Because you get to a point with your stuff where you don't know where to begin. And you think it's this insurmountable task. And I think maybe because I taught 3rd graders, I'm able to break things down into like very easy, understandable steps. So I guess in any industry, what you need to be able to do is relate to your clients, make them feel comfortable, and make the end result feel obtainable.
Yeah. What are some consistent like key situations that you're seeing where people are at an inflection point where they want to bring in some outside help to be more organized?
Lots of life transitions. Divorce is a big one. If you're you've been living together and now you have two separate households and you're already going through all of the emotions. So I don't know how to set up my home. Grief and loss is another big one where you've lost somebody in your life. Maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a spouse. Now you're left with all of their stuff and you're not sure what you're supposed to do with it. And a lot is injury, illness, sickness. Like I have systems, I know how to do it, but they've fallen behind because I've been getting cancer treatments for the last 3 years,
Right.
or I was in a car accident. I physically cannot do the organizing, so I need help with that.
I think it's so good because other entrepreneurs who have, they focus on those same key situations. They might not think of to network with a professional organizer.
Yeah.
But what are some connections that you have made that have been really good, like back and forth relationships?
Yeah. So when I started my business, I immediately saw my clients had needs. So when I started networking, I was looking for people that could meet the needs of my clients. A big one is, a lot of what I do is also around moving, like we talked about. And so when you're moving, you need someone to come in and clean, like a move out clean. A lot of times you need carpets done. So those were my two big ones that I was looking for. And it's not easy to find good cleaners and good carpet cleaners. So I think when I started networking, I was looking to meet needs of my clients and not even realizing that there can be some reciprocal relationships in that. So I found a great carpet cleaner. Outside of that, I found a really good business mentor, somebody that didn't just want business from me. They wanted to know about my business. They wanted to know how they could help my business. They wanted to know what my goals were and how they could help reach them. That's Ryan Ponto with the Spot Specialist. I think you've met him.
Yeah.
So that's a really big one. I'm still on the search for a good cleaner. I'm hoping you can connect me with one. Realtors I was told realtors were going to be my number one power partner. I have struggled with that a little bit. There are so many realtors out there, and just like cleaners, you need to find ones that meet the needs of your clients. It's just not this realtor that, you can reach out and touch because everybody knows 1,000 realtors.
Yeah.
You need to find one that withholds the values that you hold in your business and will also treat your clients the same way that you would.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to Ryan because he's a great entrepreneur and does it the right way. How did you meet him? And then what do you love by collaborating with him?
I met him, I'm trying to think just a networking event.
Yeah.
So when I started my business, I went online, and when you start your business, you don't have a lot of money. So you do all of the free ones.
Yeah.
And I met him, I think at my maybe second networking event ever. The first one I went to was a bunch of women, which are still great partners for me in just learning how to run a business, learning how to be a business owner, learning how to push your boundaries and not get stuck in kind of what you're doing, because as a teacher, I never had to do half the things I have to do while I'm running my business. So I met him and we just had a genuine conversation. Immediately, I knew, this is somebody I can trust. This is somebody that my clients can trust. And this will give them someone that, again, can fill a need. During moving is a very stressful time. So they can easily have this taken off their plate and we can focus on all of the other things.
Sure. Well, let's talk about networking, because networking events sometimes are organized chaos. You go to these mixers and there's a bunch of people talking to each other, passing business cards. But some people have they come in there with a plan. They work. They make sure they're following up. Any tips or keys from a organizer brain about how to stay organized through a networking social?
Yeah, I know there are lots of different systems that people use. Some people are very digital and they will take a picture of your card and it goes in their phone. They set a reminder right there. I think that's amazing. That's not me. I don't love stuff, but I do keep business cards.
Okay.
For me, visually, if I see the card, I can remember where I met the person and oftentimes the conversation that we had. And I just have a system where I keep them so it's not like a disaster. I know exactly where to look when I need them. It's also super helpful for my clients. A lot of them are not digital. So when they need something, I can get the card and actually give the card, or at least take a picture, which I know is digital, but they can see it all. It's not this text that they don't understand.
Yeah. Cool. Well, part of the connections that matter is we highlight the connections that you already have, but also if there's any connections that you're looking for. We have a bunch of business owners that are watching. Are, like you said, you're that elusive real estate agent or move out cleaner. But who else are you looking for? What kind of connections are you looking to collaborate with?
I think if there's an industry out there that's like, I never thought about a professional organizer, this would be a great fit for my clients. Yeah. I'd love to connect with them. I am still looking for a cleaner. I have met with some. I will say my process is that I hire them in my own home first, just to make sure that I can pass them along to my clients. And a handyman, which I think I possibly have made a good connection with. Nice. So as long as that follows through, for my clients, I like to give them options. So I'm one handyman is not going to fulfill the need. I like to have at least 3 that I can give them to choose from, just availability, personalities, and one probably strange one you might not think about is people in the funeral industry.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of loss and grief that goes on with my clients. And although they may not be ready right then and there when they've lost this person, it can be a connection that can be made and then a relationship that can be built over time. So I think that's another one. Awesome.
I love that you highlight it's like, hey, before I'm going to recommend somebody, I'm going to try you out personally. It's interesting that it's like using yourself is step one to the true trust, which is like recommending something of that. And I think that's super valuable is like, hey, if I have a good experience, then I could actually have a more authentic recommendation because of that personal experience. So, I think of every time you get a new client, it's an audition instead of just a transaction. Well, Melissa, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you coming on the show. You have your own podcast where, so if I'm into organizing or I am an organizer, I would love to collaborate with you. Tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I started my business, I was looking for community. I prefer being able to bounce ideas off of people, just having someone that's going through the same thing that I can ask questions to. So I started an organizer meetup, and we meet once a month in Fort Collins. If there are organizers watching and you would like to come, we'd be happy to have you. From that, about a year later, we decided we wanted to do a podcast. So there are 3 of us. There were 4 of us that started it. One unfortunately decided to leave organizing, but she is working at her children's school. So it's amazing that she gets to be there with them. But our podcast is called The Organizing Mafia, and our tagline is, we're going to help you kill that clutter.
All right. Well, tune into the podcast for her. Melissa, thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Great insights today. And
thanks for having me.
We'd love to come to more homes where it just feels like peace and ease. And I think the biggest takeaway is just let go of that stuff. You don't really need. Just let it go.
Those things you don't need, it is okay. Let them go.
Right on. Well, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey all, thanks for watching. I love networking and building relationships with other Northern Colorado business leaders. So if you want to come meet some of these podcast guests, meet me, or meet some other amazing entrepreneurs in Northern Colorado, I would love to have you attend one of our next events. Go in the podcast description. There's a ways that you can see our upcoming schedule, and maybe you could be a future podcast guest as well. Thanks.